I finally returned, like your father from the gas station, with that pack of cigarettes after a much longer time than either of us expected. You didn't expect me to come back? What do you take me for? Some guy that can't pronounce monogatari? Oh, how am I? Well, outside of having no full-time job, my hard drive with all my video projects corrupting, COVID literally ruining my life, moving back in with my parents, police not understanding that they aren't above the law, and the existential dread that people are more stupid than I ever could have imagined.
You know, phone's fake. Anybody can get it, but it comes from 5G towers. You're being cooked from the inside out.
I'm doing fine. Hope you are too. So let's talk about Serial Experiments Lain. Lain has always been this legendary, monolithic anime to me ever since I got into the community. It's well known, especially infamous for being confusing, abstract, and extremely One day I knew I would tackle it, but the question was when. So as the clock read 2 a.m., I loaded up the first episode on my ancient PC running Windows 95 and began. And I thought it was good. One thing I didn't know before is how impressionistic in nature it is. The most accurate descriptor of the series is surreal, as there is very little to be understood at face value, while events come in and out of focus like objects at the fringe of fuzziness in a microscope. There's this hazy, bleached out aesthetic that really captures how I think of the early 2000s. The aesthetic is probably one of its biggest draws, as it pulls influences from Evangelion, Ghost in the Shell, The Exorcist, and its influences on later anime is also apparent. The image of loose wires surrounding pools of night black water and small ambient blinking lights all locked into a small room with this unassuming girl named Lain is one I can't forget. Given I did expect the whole world to carry this sort of appearance, but logically so, most technology is hyper-concentrated specifically to a room. Interestingly, this anime wasn't exactly what I expected, but it was also a lot more than I could have imagined. One surprisingly relevant element is the way in which The Wired absorbs people's time. The Wired's not only a reflection of their world, but also a completely alternate reality for people to interact in, similar to the internet. In Lain, people interact differently compared to the real world, and it has its own unique modes of communication. This is exemplified by the alternate version of Lain that may or may not actually exist on The Wired. It could be a different entity, or could simply be a version of herself that she doesn't yet know about. The Wired's a different existence, but lives in parallel, deeply connected to the real world. On the note of the real world, there's this large digression into exploring the preservation of self and the concept of reality. These exist as mirrored concepts, as the perception of self and our lifespan is posed in opposition to whether we really know the reality of ourselves. Or simply put, could a version of ourselves on the internet, The Wired, exist in complete parity to the real us, thus extending our life? You may be wondering why I've named the video this. Well, besides the chance for primo clickbait, I do think this is a very good show, and its themes are thought-provoking, and the opening is a fucking banger. But I don't necessarily love it, or think it's perfect. And before you think I'm dumb, and I don't watch enough art house, I have a degree in Chinese cartoons, and you can't prove me wrong. I think it's a cool show that really does mess with your head, but at times it's trying too hard to do just that. Serial Experiments Lain's obtuseness doesn't always feel as rewarding as other super media I've seen, and at times felt masturbatory, so in the end, I kinda just went, cool? I think the reason I wanted to say all this is just to say that the show is very good, but it's fine if some of you don't think it's perfect. You can still appreciate it greatly and feel it has some flaws. Now on to a true work of art.
This is what the word of the Lord says. Would you read it with me?
10 out of 10, guys. It takes a director with some careful hands to guide the audience through a story of cat girls. No, I mean a director with thoughtful direction. Yasutaka Yamamoto charts us through the perilous waters of the epic of Vanilla, a stoic cat girl, and Shakola, a ditzy cat girl. Have I said cat girls enough yet? Embedded within these characters are traits as classic as storytelling itself, relied on by the likes of Shakespeare all the way to Toni Morrison. These characters are deep. How deep? Other than its multifaceted characters, what else does this show have to offer? There's some really great humor in here that reaches into the truth of catgirl as a societal projection in the liminal space between anthropoid and subservient animal in the age of modernity. This is comedy. With this masterpiece out of the way, let's clean house. So what has the anime community been up to recently?
I am genuinely one of those people who looks at hentai as art.
No, I totally agree with you.
Business as usual.
Liz and the Bluebird is a fantastic movie. On a purely technical level, it may be the most impressive work I've ever seen.
I honestly don't understand the hype. The insert shots of small movements really disrupt the flow of the uber slow paced editing and narrative style. The animation during the school sections are TV level, and the plot itself is vague? Like, what happens in this movie? Mizore, the protagonist, is sad because she feels disconnected from her friend. What does she do about it? She, get, you know. The storybook sections are cool, but Mizore doesn't do anything except think and eventually come to the conclusion that they're both birds? Come on, guys. Come on. Really? This show is so edgy.
We have to kill because we are bloodthirsty humans.
Like the scene of the girl almost forgetting to wash the blood off her hands before she eats delicious donut? Very subtle. Because yes, the vampires are justified as a group of demons that exploit and target people with no sense of coexistence with others. Everyone is so dumb. Every character is just waiting around to die. OMG, there are people dying every day in our small village. Nah, we chillin'. Okay, that one may not be too far off. Anything else? Horo Musoku is pretty interesting to get an insight on the feeling of being insecure in the body that you have, even if not a perfect anime. Last of all, I'm planning on posting more on this channel, for real. I realize just how much I miss talking about anime, so I got a couple ideas in the pipeline. And one I'm working on right now. So until then, I'll see ya.